Hello friends, it's Chris Angel coming at you for another episode of You Know What. That's right, it's marketing for the rest of us, and this show is a show about marketing, obviously, but it's for the rest of us, meaning there are all sorts of marketing gurus out in the world who stand on stage and talk about all the things you can do in advertising and marketing, and they have big teams, big budgets, lots of fancy creative things happening. And yet they tell us out here in the trenches that we can do what they do. And yet the reality is that's not exactly true, right? Like I get the spirit of it. I get the broad stroke of it. But the reality is they have some resources that we don't. So how do we compete? How do the rest of us compete in marketing when we aren't necessarily tech savvy? We don't have big teams and big budgets. We don't care about SEO and algorithms. Well, we compete with our emotional intelligence. We compete with empathy. We compete with our heart because that is what we've been gifted with. Now, we have nurtured that over the course of our life and our business, and so that is what we use. Okay, so let's talk about advertising versus marketing because they are not, my friend, the same thing. It's easy to confuse those, to collapse those two, but I'll hit the bottom line here. Advertising, we're going to spend money to broadcast a message to a specific group of people, and that is advertising. Now, and advertising is typically going to move people towards a purchase, right? Marketing, on the other hand, marketing, in my opinion, is a conversation. Marketing is about connection. Marketing makes advertising easier. Marketing makes selling easier, but marketing is not the same thing as advertising. So let's start to dive into the problem, shall we? First of all, the first problem is that you've collapsed these two, that you think advertising is marketing, you think marketing is advertising, and so you don't know how to use either one effectively. In other words, your marketing comes off like advertising. Your marketing comes off where you are selling, you're promoting, you're pushing and trying to convert through your marketing, and your advertising comes off like marketing where you're boosting posts and spending money for things. You could even be doing this offline and advertising in a magazine or somewhere else, sponsoring an event, and you're trying to just build a relationship when your advertising is really built for moving people through a process to make a decision. So you can see that if you have these two things collapse, you're gonna ruin your effort in both categories. Now, if you understand how these two things work together, you can actually create a compound effect here with your marketing and your advertising. So let me spend a minute on that. First of all, at the foundation of all of it is I would say is your marketing, okay? And we're gonna call this marketing-based, advertising-enhanced. Marketing-based, your business should be marketing-based and advertising-enhanced. So what does that mean? Well, marketing-based means that you're going to all the time be producing content that creates relationship because marketing is about relationship. So all the time, always, you'll never stop. You'll never stop marketing. You will for always and ever create content. Now, I recommend daily because I think daily is not only good for your people because you're present and visible, but it's good for you because you're creating a habit, you're creating a skill set, and you're getting repetitions, okay? So marketing is about you having a conversation with the world. And I recommend that you do that daily, okay? The other thing that I've noticed for me that's been beneficial about daily content is that it allows me to explore new ideas that life is showing me, right? If you followed any of this content for any length of time, then you know that I believe in your life teaches you every day. Your life teaches you every single day. But if you're not present to it, if you're not aware of it, then the lesson slides by and you miss it, right? And then you feel like a broken record in your marketing because you think you always say the same thing. But when you are paying attention to what life is teaching you, you will be aware of all the new lessons, all the color, all the shape, all the texture of the new things that you are discovering. And you, because you're further down the road than your tribe, get to bring that to your tribe. So that is the amazing side of marketing, right, is that you get to explore new distinctions, new content, new lessons in life, and help your tribe in all the things that you've learned, okay? Now, if you're consistent in marketing, it does a couple things for your advertising. Number one, your marketing will create a stronger tribe, okay, that you can advertise to. Also, your marketing creates new content that you can continue to evolve for your advertising. I've said this in a past episode, but when I talk to marketing agencies that run ads, my agency is not yet set up for that, although I'm getting very close to considering that option. But what I've noticed is that from those ad agencies, what they say is the hardest part is getting new content from their clients, because you can't run one ad. There's a shelf life to advertising, right? Especially in digital space, you have to have new content. And if the best content is content that comes from you. So if you're going to run ads through an agency or even your own ads, you want to continually have new content, right? So marketing, if you do it consistently, sets up your entire advertising strategy, okay? So let's talk about advertising for a minute. How do we do this? Like, obviously I can't give this to you in a episode. In one episode, I can't give you all the, the magical wonder of Pandora's box of advertising. But I'm going to give you something to consider here about advertising. And that is, number one, that when you advertise, you want to advertise from your truth. You want to be spending money sharing the message you actually want to be known for, right? That's why doing marketing, which is your message, is so important, because it gives you the truth bombs that you're going to market and spend money to put in front of other people. The best thing you can put in front of people are your truth bombs. I see a lot of people get marketing wrong, like they do it wrong, because what they do is they go spend money for a sales pitch. They spend money for a sales letter. They spend money, they hire some fancy videographer and create some kind of fancy video, but they couldn't recreate what they said if they tried. Because they're not speaking from their truth, they're speaking from a script of what either the videographer told them to, or some random questions the videographer asked them, and it wasn't their truth. And so the problem with that is when you spend money on that kind of advertising and people click through, but then actually interact with the real you, they're like, what? There's a dissonance, right? This isn't what I thought I was clicking through for. I know years ago, 5-ish years ago, when I first started Facebook ads, I found this out the hard way, right? Like what I found was I was trying to do all the ad things. I was building landing pages, funnels, running ads. And what I realized was that, and I would say I spent $5,000 in a matter of 3 months on Facebook ads. And people clicked through because my ad was a certain script, right? But when they got to the landing page, or they got to the discovery call, they got to a conversation with me, it was different than what they thought they were getting. And so it didn't convert. As much as my marketing and my ads were doing work on the front end, it didn't convert on the back end, because what I was advertising wasn't my truth. It was what I thought I was supposed to say. Okay, so your advertising needs to come from your marketing, and your marketing will actually set up your ads. By the way, another cool thing about this is when you market, and I use social media mostly, but when I market, you can actually see what people are responding to, right? So when you see people responding to certain things you say in your marketing, that is a good indication of something you could run as an ad. Do you see, like, marketing and especially advertising is all about testing. And that's why I love advertising, because you can test some more and see what works. And you can spend as little as, at least on Facebook's platform, you can spend as little as $1 a day and start to see what's getting a good click-through rate, what's a good cost per click. You can start to measure what you're testing before you go all in. Back in the day when there wasn't this type of ad platform and you were trying to do a direct mail campaign or a magazine campaign or a TV and radio, you had to spend crazy money every month for a predetermined contract, like 6 months, 12 months, and you couldn't test. You couldn't test on a low dollar, and you couldn't test fast because you had to commit to a long-term contract. So what's cool in this day and age of digital marketing and advertising is that in advertising today, you can actually test for low dollars and you can test quickly and see what produces the result. But what sets that up in your favor is looking at your marketing and who's responding to which posts. When you find that in your marketing, that's a good indication that you could run an ad for that because it's resonating with people. All right. So let's see if we can't bring this to a close. Obviously, like I said, there's way more to this conversation than we could possibly do in this particular episode. But I do want to start to scratch the surface for you because I want you to see that these two things can play together in the sandbox, right? So let's wrap this way. In order for you to get productive in your marketing advertising, you need to see that your marketing serves your advertising. You get that? Like your marketing becomes the engine. Your marketing becomes the what's with the head of a river. What's that thing where like in a river, like it pops? It's like where it starts, where the river starts. What do you call that? Where the river starts. It comes up through the ground and then it starts down the hill. Like your marketing is that, and out of that you can start to pull content for your advertising. But if you treat these two things separately and you do not create synergy between the two, you're in trouble, okay? You might as well not start. So you can see now that everything in your advertising, by the way, advertising for me, this is why I've committed to this path, is that advertising is the path to consistent cash flow. To cause and effect. We could say to cause and effect cash flow. Because with marketing, you don't know. It's hard to track ROI. Organic marketing, where you're posting every day, it's good for you and it's good for your tribe, but you can't always predict or track what's producing the result. With paid traffic, though, you can. I spend this many dollars, I get this many clicks, I get this much conversion. You can actually follow it through. And so there is cause and effect, which for me gives me massive peace of mind because now I can play my numbers. Now I can actually structure something that produces a result. It's so frustrating to not know how to produce a result. And so much marketing, because marketing is not advertising, so much of marketing can get frustrating because you don't know how to make it produce a result. So you show up and you do Facebook Lives and you do blog posts and you do all the things you're supposed to do in marketing, and then it doesn't produce a result, and then you get frustrated. But if you realize that marketing is about you channeling your truth and sharing that with the world in order to find your truth bombs in the marketing that you can pull out of your marketing and run as an ad, okay, now things start to open up. Now things start to open up. So you can see that the heart of, the foundation of, the beginning of all of this is your marketing. And your marketing is about your message. What are you saying to the world? What conversation do you want to lead with the world? And once you have that, now you need to spend some time in repetition over and over and over again in your marketing, in your messaging, speaking that to the world. And as you get better at that, now you start to have the mothership of content to pull ads from. But until you get proficient at or confident in what it is you're saying to the world, there's no point in running an ad. You're wasting money because you don't know what you're saying. And if anybody actually clicked through on those ads where you didn't know what you were saying, when they got to a phone call or some type of conversion mechanism, they wouldn't actually convert anyway because what they're getting from you isn't at all what they saw in the ad. It's not authentic. So if you'd like help on getting your messaging dialed in, I have a free course. It's called Marketing for the Rest of Us, the course. And it is the precursor to, it is the appetizer of my 6-week intensive program called the Groundswell Method Intensive. And in that intensive 6-week program, we actually go to work on how do you find your conversation, how do you capture your conversation, how do you produce the conversation, and how do you share that conversation in the world. And that, my friends, kicks the snowball into gear for how do you now start to have truth bombs that you can actually use in advertising to produce a result. So that is, I want to touch base on advertising and marketing tonight because I think a lot of people are curious about ads. If you haven't already been doing Facebook ads, people get curious. And if you have been doing Facebook ads, but you've been frustrated by results, this is why, right? Because your message, you're not clear. You're not dialed in on your message or who you're speaking to. So all of that gets covered in the Groundswell Method 6-week intensive. But the place to start would be the free course. So to get that free course, go to groundswellmethod.com. And thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us.